The opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Invisible Wounds or Wightman. Please be aware that the content of Fireside Chats with Deborah may contain sensitive subjects such as suicide, grief, violence, PTSD, and other mental health conditions. By discussing these subjects, we will decrease stigma, bring awareness, and hope. If you need support, please reach out to trusted contacts, family, friends, call your doctor, or go to the closest emergency department. Call helplines such as Boots on the Ground at 1-833-677-BOOT. We hope this series helps build self-confidence in you. On today's show, Debbie Bodkin, mental health first aid instructor and public speaker, my journey to recovery. Fireside Chats with Deborah is sponsored by Leslie Motors of Hairston, Walkerton, and Wingham. Visit lesliemotors.com to learn more. By South Bruce Flooring and Bernie McGlynn Lumber Limited, a local company bringing beauty to your home, one board at a time. Started in 1964 by Jerry and Mary McGlynn in Wingham to supply lumber to farms, the company has now grown to serve both commercial and residential customers. In 1983, Bernie purchased the company from his father and still owns and operates it with his wife Doreen and their children Lucas, Sheldon, and Sharina. You can visit them yourself in the South Bruce Flooring showroom north of Mildmay. A great selection of hardwood flooring and lumber sourced from Midwestern Ontario, along with byproducts of sawdust, mulch, and wood chips. For more information, go to southbruceflooring.com or call 519-367-3215.
Welcome to Fireside Chats. It's my pleasure today to introduce a friend of mine. I've known Deb Bodkin for about 10 years now, and this lady has a wealth of experience and a lot of topics to speak on today. So Deb, how about you start off with going back and giving a bit of a history on what kind of work you've been doing?
Okay, well, I'll start with my original career, which was policing with Waterloo in Waterloo Regional. And I did 25 years of policing, planned on 30, but due to my own mental health struggles as a result of some of my policing experiences, I did some work overseas in war-torn countries. And as a result, sort of a culmination of that, I had my own mental health breakdown, basically. I kind of pushed through and made it till I was able to retire with a pension earlier than planned, and did so, retired, took a couple years to work on myself and get my own mental well-being back in order. And from there, that sort of became mental health and mental illness and trying to figure out where I would fit in helping other first responders. That sort of became my passion from there.
Great. So can we go back to that a little bit and maybe provide a bit more information about that? And when you were policing, was that kind of the old boys school, suck it up buttercup days?
Absolutely. Yep, you hit it on the head there. For sure, yeah. And so as a female, I think part of what happened to me was the fact that, you know, I always think as females, we need to express our emotions and so on in order to deal with them, maybe in a different way than some of the guys do. And in policing, nobody's supposed to, or previously, was supposed to show any of that. And so bottling it up wasn't the way for me to work through things. And that caused some of my issues, I think.
Absolutely. And the positive thing is that there is some changes going on within first responders and how they're supporting their employees. Definitely some work that still needs to be done, but at least there's some steps made in the positive direction. So thank you for sharing that. And now you did also mention that you went overseas. Are you comfortable talking about that at all?
Yeah, and it was basically, I mean, when I think back now, I used to get very choked up to be able to talk about it, but I have, I think, very positive post-traumatic growth now, so talking about it is very good for me. But when I went overseas, it was just like taking my policing skills into a war-torn country. So it was mostly interviewing victims of sexual assaults, survivors of horrific crimes, and witnesses of horrific crimes. So I went 3 different times to Africa and Kosovo as well, and basically did the same thing in each country. And then sort of brought those stories back with me. And on top of bringing those back, there's the culture shock of coming back to our excessive society versus being somewhere where they had very little. So a combination of that, coupled with policing, was kind of what just was too much weight for me to carry and keep inside.
So when you recognized that you were carrying this big burden, what was your first steps to getting well? And not that I don't like the whole thing about mental illness, although that's a diagnosis that you have to have in order to get, quote, treatment. So mental injury, occupational stress, I think those are kinder terms.
Yeah, I agree. Well, as you know, sometimes when you are in the midst of that unwellness mentally, you don't realize it. And I think for I'm guessing for likely a year, I didn't know I was, but you know, in hindsight, I know I was changing. Instead of being a happy, very personable, love people person, I was becoming a hermit and miserable and didn't want to talk to people and was segregating myself and so on, to the point where I kind of stopped talking to friends and family even. I didn't want to be around anybody because I was miserable all the time. And luckily, I don't know, the light came on and I thought, I need to get help. Nobody told me, nobody suggested or led me. Okay. Somehow I realized I want the old Debbie back. So I looked up a counselor. This was long before I'd ever heard of post-traumatic stress disorder or even knew anything about mental wellness. Right. So going to a counselor and being told, this is what's happening. You have depression, you have post-traumatic stress. It was just like, okay, well, how do I fix it? And then kind of went from there.
So you talk about fixing it. What was that? What did that involve for you?
Letting it out would be the simple, just letting it out. Like the first session with my counselor, all I can really remember clearly is I used up an entire box of Kleenex, you know, just finally unloading what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what I'm carrying, and what I'm trying to hide so no one at work finds out. And even the counselor I found someone half an hour away from work so no one would know that I was going to a counselor.
So what was that about?
The stigma, you know. And in my mind then, it was if somebody knows I'm going to a counselor, they're going to think I'm crazy, not fit for duty, no one's going to want to work with me. And that was kind of the, and I know in some places still is, the feeling that first responders have that you can't tell anybody or they're not going to respect you or want to work with you.
And I think there's some realities about that, being the loose cannon, you know, that's been around for years. Yeah. It's changing, yes, but it's still there somewhat. But changing as administration changes sometimes and policies change. For sure. Yeah. Interesting. So moving forward then, when you were into therapy, what type of interventions did she teach you or he teach you, or that type of skills, right, you know, to put in your toolbox?
Yeah, it was a she, the lady that I went to. And I think number one was talking. Like, you know, if I wasn't going to counseling, she sort of said, you need to open up to, you know, friends and family, people you trust, people you love. You need to keep opening up and not just come, you know, once a week and talk to me and then go back to hiding it. So it was breaking down my own personal stigma was part of it. And then sort of the whole gamut of physical fitness, which had always been, you know, very into, but when my mental health went down the drain, so did my fitness. And she said, you got to kind of start bringing that back up and your mental wellness will come back up. And then I started, had always been involved in yoga, but I became much more involved in it. And then put meditation and mindfulness on top of that. So kind of a real healthier picture all around.
Sounds really healthy. So did you go to classes to learn how to do this? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Many, many classes, conferences, well, mental health conferences like where we met. That really became my focus, is to get, I guess originally to get myself in a good place, but then, as I said, that urge, which you would totally understand, of helping others to get to that same realization, what can bring you down and what can bring you back up.
So was there any other life changes that happened with your post-trauma events and getting into therapy?
I started teaching a mental health course eventually. You know, I went to conferences and so on, heard about the mental health first aid course created by the Mental Health Commission of Canada. And I can't even remember if I first took I did take the course first as a student and then went back and took the course to become an instructor. Okay. And it's basically a very generic course for absolutely anyone to teach you how to recognize when somebody's suffering, or yourself, and goes through steps of listening to yourself, listening to the other person, talking about different meditation, healthy living ideas to bring you back into a better place. So just taking that course, I learned a lot for myself and started teaching it to other people.
So you mentioned that this is not just for first responders, it's for anybody to take?
Absolutely.
So where do you offer it?
I was doing it pre-COVID, of course, anywhere. I started organizing courses on my own that were just open to the public, and then I started contacting some of the police services where I knew someone and teaching some of their critical incident personnel, or just anybody and everybody, a lot of first responders. Right. Paramedics were kind of the first ones to really grab onto it and take a lot of it. So yeah, it's meant for anyone, but of course my passion was originally first responders.
Good. Yeah, so how was this, like an hour-long course or a day course, or?
Pre-COVID, again, in person, it's a 2-day course, so a full, pretty much 8-hour course. Very interactive. I don't like to use the word basic, but very easy to understand for anyone. You don't have to have any mental health background whatsoever. Now with COVID, they created an online version, a virtual version, which is 2 3-hour sessions. So a little bit shorter, so packed more together. Obviously you don't have the group work, so it's changed that. But it's a very succinct, you know, people walk away with a really good understanding of mental health. So
do you think you'll go back to in person?
Haven't decided for sure. The virtual I really like because you can teach anyone, anywhere, and not leave the comfort of your home. Kind of got used to that. The in-person, you get better feedback, obviously. But now I'm sort of kind of coupling that with, I want to become a meditation instructor and bring that on board too, and maybe do a combination of the two. I haven't figured that out.
So totally. Why meditation now?
Because it's like, you know, somebody who's a distance runner would say, you know, I run my 3 kilometers and I feel like a new person afterwards. For me, if I just shut down my eyes and focus on my breathing, or if it's an object I'm focusing on for 20 minutes, it's like I'm a new person. So meditation was a huge part, and still is, every day. I get up, I meditate for at least 5 minutes minimum, but 20 to half an hour every morning. And it's just like my pre-coffee kind of thing. The meditation gets my headspace, or gets my head in the right space to then go on with my day. And when I miss it, I really, really miss it.
Oh yeah? Yeah. So how do you know when you miss it?
I'm just not as focused. I'm not as comfortable. When I meditate in the morning, if, say, you ask me a question that really got me agitated, my instinct of breathing deeper, calming, sitting up differently kind of kicks in. Right. Whereas if I've missed that morning, I might get a little more flustered. It just keeps you in a better space and keeps you in the moment, I guess, is the simplest way, which I like.
So do you take the course somewhere, or do you do it online? Or?
I'm looking at a few courses, but McMaster University actually offers a meditation certificate now that I'm thinking of doing.
Good for you. So where did you learn meditation initially for you?
At yoga classes first. Many of the yoga instructors have meditation included. But I signed up on the app Headspace, and I do that one every morning.
I've heard of that.
It's very good Headspace. And I even got my husband, who was, you know, initially, it's all gobbledygook, but he's very likely could be diagnosed with anxiety, but would never say that.
No,
he started doing.
Watching now.
He started doing meditation too, using the app Calm, which is very similar, but both have the same basics.
Yeah. Oh, good. So what else are you doing? I mean, it's been a while since we've chatted.
Yeah. Well, through COVID, I taught 3 virtual courses last year. I haven't taught mine for this year yet. But one of my, I'm kind of going through, you know, life bucket lists, and one of them was to own a coffee shop. I don't know why. I always, maybe it's kind of part of that calmness, you know. Even in policing, I didn't like going to Tim Hortons. I liked going to Starbucks, which had that, I don't know, calmer vibe to it in the coffee shop. So I've always liked that. But I have no business sense, so owning something wasn't a good idea. But I found a new little coffee shop 10 minutes away from my home, and I'm a barista there 2 days a week, and I utilize my mental health first aid knowledge, because people quite often come into a coffee shop like they're going to the hairdresser, to a bartender or whatever, and they kind of come in and you can kind of tell when somebody's not in a good place and they just want somebody to talk to. So I love talking to people, and I've met lots of people that way.
Well, that's sweet. So how big is this coffee shop? Is it?
If we were full, you know, without the COVID regulations, we could likely seat 12 people. Pretty tiny.
Oh, okay, so it is really
yeah,
intimate.
it is very tiny. Very cute.
Nice
beautiful.
little town.
Yeah, beautiful
home
little
sense.
setup. Got some local artists displaying their artwork. We hope to have maybe some one night a week, you know, speaking or something like that. So maybe do some public speaking at it in the evenings.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, might as well give them a plug. What's the name of it?
The Little Blue Coffee House.
Little Blue. In
Tiverton.
In Tiverton. Okay, there we go. So what else are you doing? I see sometimes some photos of you hiking. Is that something you're into?
Along with the meditation, being outdoors every day. Got to do something every day. So yeah, hiking, walking. I walk 3 days a week in the morning with a neighbor, and then the other days I hike on my own or drag my husband out once in a while.
And what about water sports? I think you used to be into that.
Paddleboarding too.
Paddleboarding.
That's meditation on the water. I get as far out into Lake Huron as possible where I hear nothing but my breathing, basically. And it's just my little heavenly spot. Wow.
Sounds very peaceful, your life.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Is that the reality all the time?
No. No, it isn't for sure. I still carry a lot of maybe altruistic endeavors. Like my mom's side of the family are Ukrainian, so right now I'm trying to figure out how to help out more with what's going on there. So always still keep busy.
That's sad. Yeah. Yeah. So what are you doing with that as far as trying to help out the Ukrainian?
Just found out that there's a lady in Godrich who's gathering goods and shipping them over to Poland for some of the refugees. So hope to get involved that way, and donating to different agencies.
Right. Is there any that you know of right now that are, like the one in Godrich? Do you know who it is? Or? It's okay if you don't.
No, I can't think of the. It's a lady who has family there. Yeah. So she just kind of started gathering, posting for people to bring medical supplies, clothing, sleeping bags, all that kind of stuff. Started out small in a little house, and now she's in the upper level of an arena with tons of things coming in.
That's cool. Yeah. Isn't it great, the people that you meet? Don't you find that with your life now?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Retirement's the best job ever, because you can, well, you would know, do a million other jobs whenever you want.
If nobody pays you though.
Well, that's true. That's true. That's what a pension's for.
Okay. No comment about that one.
Right. And the coffee shop. I get a little bit of pay.
Yeah, that's true. So you had talked about having a few things on your bucket list. What else is on that bucket list of yours?
Travel, still one of my goals. You know, I've done those overseas journeys is to work at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. That's always been on the bucket list. And now some of the perpetrators that were in Sudan, where I went, in Africa, they're being tried in the court now.
Oh, you're not finished with this one
No,
yet,
no,
are ya?
no, that one I will never let go. So I'd really like to go and work in some capacity. There's a victim witness preparation person job that's advertised there right now that I'm thinking of applying for.
Are you ready for it?
It likely won't happen until 2023. They're taking applications. Yeah. But yeah, with all my self-care stuff, I'm ready to take on anything. Yeah, and I know my limitations now. Yeah.
Well, and the nice thing too is that it's, you know, you're still in therapy. Are you touching base every once in a while?
Once a year at least.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So if you need to, you can up that and have more contact, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds good. So what else? Oh, that's huge, but...
I was just going to say, well, the bucket list is, I'd like to go do a bicycle tour somewhere. So incorporate all that healthy fitness stuff in another part of the world, too.
So what about hubby? Where does he fit in?
He cooks for me.
He cooks.
Which is wonderful. So house cleaning is always, and cleaning the kitchen. But yeah, his sort of retirement happy spot is cooking in the kitchen now, which I love because I hate cooking.
That's a great...
So it worked out perfectly that way. And I moved my mom up to Kincardine, so keeping her busy too. Taking her to the gym with me at 80 years old. She's pumping iron with me, so it's awesome.
That is awesome, yeah. So it sounds like in the 10 years that I've known you, there's been a lot of change, and a lot of it's been so positive, and a lot of work, and a lot of it now done for the benefit of others, and I want to congratulate you for that.
Thank you. Well, I hope I'll always be doing things like that.
Well, I have no doubt. You're that girl. Anyhow, thank you very much for joining us today, and I wish you only the best.
Same to you, Deborah.
Thanks.
Invisible Wounds will host events promoting mental wellness to first responders, their families, and civilians. Our upcoming national conference, the Invisible Wounds Conference for First Responders, will be held October 5th and 6th, 2022 at the Prince of Wales Hotel and Spa, Niagara-on-the-Lake. To find out more, please visit our website at invisible-wounds.ca.